The room you're sitting in right now could be full of trees, real, living, breathing trees. And most of them don't need a single ray of direct sunlight to survive. Not a grow light, not a skylight, not a south-facing window. Just the ordinary ambient light of a lived-in space. That's not a sales pitch, that's botany. Before we get into this, a quick note. This content is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Some of these plants have powerful traditional medicinal reputations, but always consult a qualified healthcare professional before using any plant for health purposes. Now, let's get into it. Most of us grew up believing trees belong outside. We were taught that sunlight equals growth, that chlorophyll means chasing rays, and that anything claiming to be a tree indoors is really just a houseplant with an identity crisis. That belief has kept millions of people from one of the most grounding, air-cleaning, mentally stabilizing things you can do for your home, filling it with actual trees. Number 14 on this list, by the way, is a tree that medieval monks cultivated in near darkness for centuries and believed it had spiritual properties. Modern science has since discovered it contains compounds that may support cognitive function. Keep that in the back of your mind. We'll get there. Let's start with the ones that look impossible. Trees that genuinely tower, that have woody trunks and canopy-spread leaves, thriving in a corner that barely sees noon light. The Dracaena marginata, called the Madagascar dragon tree, looks like something that escaped from a science fiction novel. Spiky, architectural, dramatic. It grows in thin vertical canes with explosions of narrow leaves at the top, reaching 6, 7, 8 feet indoors without complaint. In its native Madagascar, it grows in the understory of dense forests, which means it evolved specifically to survive on filtered, broken light. That adaptation is why it practically thrives on neglect. Low light, infrequent watering, average humidity. The dragon tree handles all of it. Traditional Malagasy healers use the resin of related Dracaena species to treat wounds, and contemporary research has explored its compounds for antimicrobial properties. For you as a grower, it's nearly foolproof. Water it every 10 to 14 days. Keep it away from cold drafts, and it will grow steadily for decades. One of the longest-lived indoor trees you can own. Staying in the structural dramatic category, the corn plant, Dracaena fragrans, is another beast entirely. Where the dragon tree is spiky and sculptural, the corn plant is lush. Wide, arching leaves with creamy yellow center stripes fan out from a thick central cane. It looks like a tropical oasis in the middle of an ordinary room. In West and Central Africa, where it grows wild, it was traditionally planted around homes as a protective boundary plant, a living wall of meaning. There's something almost sacred in that use, the idea that a tree marks the threshold between inside and out, between safe and wild. Research has confirmed that Dracaena fragrans is one of the most effective plants at removing formaldehyde and trichloroethylene from indoor air, compounds that off-gas from furniture, carpeting, and cleaning products. It tolerates low light better than most plants, though it grows slightly faster with indirect brightness. Water when the top inch of soil is dry. Don't overwater. That's the one mistake that takes these down. Now here's one that confuses people at first because the name doesn't sound like a tree. The parlor palm, Chamedorea elegans, is absolutely a tree. It has a proper trunk, fronds that arch outward like a slow-motion wave, and it was once the most sought-after indoor plant in Victorian England. Wealthy households paid significant sums for parlor palms because they were status symbols, living proof that you could afford the exotic. But here's the interesting thing. The Victorians, for all their love of extravagance, actually stumbled onto a legitimate low-light survivor. Parlor palms are native to the shaded rainforest floors of Mexico and Guatemala, where they grow in near darkness beneath towering canopy. They genuinely do not want direct sun. It scorches their fronds. In filtered indoor light, they grow slowly but steadily, eventually reaching 5 or 6 feet with the right care. Beyond aesthetics, they're non-toxic to pets and children, which puts them in a smaller category than most people realize. Easy to find, affordable, and genuinely tolerant of dim rooms. The Kentia palm deserves its own conversation because it carries a story most people don't know. Indigenous to Lord Howe Island, a tiny volcanic speck between Australia and New Zealand, the Kentia palm was harvested to near extinction in the late 1800s and early 1900s because Europeans couldn't get enough of it. It was the signature indoor palm of Gilded Age hotels, ocean liners, AEs, and grand ballrooms. People shipped it across oceans. They paid fortunes for it. And the reason it was so coveted, besides its sweeping, elegant fronds, is that it survived the worst conditions imaginable. The dim hallways of ships, the windowless ballrooms, the gas-lit hotel lobbies of a pre-electric world. It wasn't just tolerant of low light. It was engineered by evolution to prefer it. Kentia palms are slow growers. Expect a few inches per year, but they're extraordinarily long-lived, with some indoor specimens documented at over 100 years old. That's a tree you plant for your grandchildren to inherit. Rounding out this first group, the ZZ plant, Zamioculcas zamifolia, which technically walks the line between shrub and tree depending on how it's cultivated. In a large enough pot with time and patience, it develops thick semi-woody stems and a presence that reads unmistakably arboreal. It's native to drought-prone Eastern Africa, where it evolved to survive months without water by storing moisture in its thick underground rhizomes. Those same adaptations make it almost aggressively hard to kill. Low light, drought, neglect, irregular watering. The ZZ plant treats all of these as minor inconveniences. Traditional uses in parts of Eastern Africa include applying crushed leaves to wounds and inflamed skin, though this should only ever be done with proper guidance. Indoors, it's a statement plant, waxy, dark green, architecturally perfect, and it asks almost nothing of you. Before we go further, I want to flag something. We're about to get into some plants that most garden centers won't even tell you exist as indoor tree options, either because they don't carry them or because they've never thought to position them that way. Some of these will require a little more searching. Some you'll find at a specialty nursery, others online, but every single one of them is genuinely growable by a beginner in an ordinary room. If you're finding this useful, now is a good time to bookmark this video. We're going to cover 20 plants, and some of these later ones are genuinely surprising. Here's the thing about tropical trees that most people get completely backwards. The floor of a rainforest is one of the darkest places on Earth. The canopy absorbs and filters light so aggressively that some forest floors receive less than 2% of the sunlight hitting the treetops. The plants that evolved down there didn't just tolerate shade, they mastered it, and many of them are now sitting in nurseries labeled as houseplants, waiting for someone to take them home and give them the dim, peaceful corner they actually prefer. The rubber tree, Ficus elastica, is one of the most iconic examples. Its broad, glossy leaves, often dark burgundy or deep green, capture every available photon with remarkable efficiency. In its native Southeast Asian rainforests, it was tapped for its milky latex sap, a practice so important that the plant gave rise to entire colonial economies. The rubber trade shaped geopolitics. Fortunes were built and broken on the sap of this tree. Indoors, it is nasitians, one of that drama. It's straightforward. It wants bright, indirect light ideally, but adapts to lower light with grace, simply growing more slowly. It can reach the ceiling if you let it. It's one of the most air-purifying plants tested in NASA's famous research, and it has an undeniable presence. Something about those large, lacquered leaves makes a room feel instantly more alive. The weeping fig, Ficus benjamina, is temperamental in the best possible way. It's one of those trees that genuinely rewards consistent care and punishes inconsistency, which means it's taught more people about patience and attentiveness than almost any other houseplant. Weeping figs drop their leaves dramatically when moved or stressed, which has discouraged many growers. But once they're settled in a spot, one with consistent, moderate, indirect light, they stabilize and grow into genuinely beautiful arching trees with thousands of small, glossy leaves. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, the closely related Ficus religiosa, the sacred fig or Bodhi tree, is among the most revered plants on earth. The Bodhi tree is said to be the tree under which the Buddha attained enlightenment. Growing a relative of that tree in your home carries its own quiet significance, even if you're not religious. Find a corner, commit to not moving it, and water it consistently. That's the entire secret. The bird of paradise, Strelitzia nicolai, is not what most people picture when they think of a low-light plant. It's massive. The white bird of paradise can reach 12 feet indoors, with leaves so large they look architectural rather than botanical. And while it prefers bright, indirect light and will grow faster with it, it tolerates genuinely dim conditions, simply growing at a slower pace. In its native South Africa, this tree is associated with freedom and paradise. Its name comes from the flower's resemblance to a tropical bird in flight. The orange bird of paradise tends to be more compact and is slightly more shade-tolerant. Either way, if you want something that makes a room look like a boutique hotel lobby, this is your tree. Water generously in summer, pull back in winter, and clean those enormous leaves regularly so they can absorb every photon available to them. The umbrella tree, Schefflera actinophylla, gets its name from the way its leaves radiate outward from a central point like the ribs of an open umbrella. It's native to tropical Australia, where it grows in forest margins and filtered light. Indoors, it can reach 8 to 10 feet, developing a genuinely tree-like trunk over time. Traditional Aboriginal communities in northern Australia had uses for various parts of the Schefflera family, including bark preparations for various purposes, though these should only be explored under proper guidance. What's remarkable about the umbrella tree as an indoor specimen is how quickly it responds to good indirect light versus how gracefully it tolerates lower light. It adjusts, it compensates, it finds a way. That adaptability is something genuinely admirable in a plant. The fishtail palm, Caryota mitis, is the most dramatically textured palm you can grow indoors, with leaves that look like they've been torn and bitten by something prehistoric. Native to Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands, it grows in the forest understory, adapted to filtered light from birth. It's one of the few palms that grows in clumps rather than a single trunk, creating a thicket-like mass of dramatic foliage that fills corners beautifully. In parts of Southeast Asia, the starchy pith of related species was used as a famine food, one of those stark reminders that beautiful plants often have deeply practical roots. Indoors, it needs humidity, moderate watering, and patience. It grows slowly, but few indoor trees have the same visual impact. In 1989, NASA published one of the most quietly radical studies in environmental science history, and it had nothing to do with space. Scientist Bill Wolverton and his team were trying to solve a problem for enclosed habitats, space stations, submarines, sealed buildings, where off-gassing from synthetic materials was degrading air quality. They tested dozens of common houseplants for their ability to remove volatile organic compounds. What they found changed how we think about indoor plants forever. Several of the trees on this list scored among the highest. The next few entries are ones that earned NASA's attention. The peace lily, Spathiphyllum, occupies a strange botanical category. In small pots, it's a houseplant. In large floor containers with years of growth, it becomes something tree-like. 4-5 feet tall with deep glossy leaves and those extraordinary white spathes that rise like white flags of calm. NASA ranked it among the top plants for removing ammonia, benzene, formaldehyde, and trichloroethylene from indoor air. It's one of the few flowering plants that blooms in low light. It practically signals when it needs water by drooping dramatically, then recovering within hours of a drink. An honest, communicative plant. Originally from Central and South American rainforests, it was associated in many indigenous traditions with peace and purification, which is where its English name originates. It's non-toxic when used appropriately, though ingestion can cause irritation, so keep it away from pets and small children. The bamboo palm, Chamaedorea sifritzi, is different from the parlor palm despite the shared genus. Where the parlor palm is delicate and fine, the bamboo palm is dense, clustered, and lush. Multiple slender canes rise together with feathery fronds, creating the feel of a bamboo grove in a tropical forest, which is, appropriately, exactly the kind of environment it comes from. NASA's study placed it among the top plants for benzene and trichloroethylene removal. It's also one of the most effective natural humidifiers in the plant world, releasing significant moisture into the air through transpiration, which can help with dry air in heated or air-conditioned rooms. For people who deal with dry sinuses, scratchy throats, or dry skin in winter, a couple of these palms can make a measurable difference to indoor air moisture levels. The areca palm, Dipsis lutescens, carries one of the most impressive environmental credentials of any indoor plant. Dr. B.C. Wolverton's follow-up research after the original NASA study found that areca palms release approximately 1 liter of water into the air per day, making them among the most effective natural humidifiers available. They also remove xylene and toluene effectively, chemicals common in paint, cleaning products, and adhesives. Native to Madagascar, the areca palm was once endangered in the wild due to habitat destruction, which gives the growing of them a small conservation significance. They grow in indirect bright light ideally, but handle moderate low light well. They're feathery, graceful, and grow in elegant clusters. In Ayurvedic tradition in India, parts of related palms have been used for generations in digestive support preparations, though always consult an Ayurvedic practitioner before any medicinal use. The Chinese evergreen, Aglaonema, is perhaps the most forgiving tree-adjacent plant on this entire list. In low light, in air conditioning, in irregular watering, it simply endures. In Southeast Asian cultures, Aglaonema has been kept indoors for centuries as a symbol of good fortune, long life, and prosperity. It's given as gifts at business openings and placed in the corners of homes during celebrations. Modern science has validated its air-purifying abilities, and it comes in an almost overwhelming range of colors: deep green, silver gray, pink, red, orange, which makes it one of the most versatile statement plants available. In very low light, the greener varieties perform best. The colorful pink and red varieties want a bit more brightness to maintain their vibrancy. The Norfolk Island pine, Araucaria heterophylla, is a tree that most people only think about at Christmas. They buy them, use them as a holiday tree, and then either plant them outside, where they grow into true giants, or slowly watch them die indoors from too much heat and too little light. The misunderstanding is the shame here, because a well-cared-for Norfolk Island pine in the right indoor conditions is a genuinely stunning tree. Native to Norfolk Island in the South Pacific, it was an important navigational landmark for early Polynesian and European sailors. A tree so tall and distinctive that it could be spotted from the ocean before land was visible. Indoors, it needs bright indirect light. It's one of the higher light trees on this list, but it tolerates lower light conditions far better than its reputation suggests. Keep it cool in winter, water sparingly, and never let it dry out completely. Given respect, it can grow for decades indoors. Pause for just a second. If you've made it this far, you already know more about low-light indoor trees than 90% of plant enthusiasts walking into any garden center right now. Most people are told, needs full sun, needs bright light, won't survive inside, and they walk away from plants that could transform their homes. You're not doing that. You're building a different relationship with these living things, one based on actually understanding saos, but what they are and where they come from. That matters. Let's finish strong. Now we get into territory that genuinely surprises people. Trees with histories stretching back thousands of years, grown indoors by cultures that had no electric lighting and needed these plants close. These aren't just houseplants. Some of them are living history. The Ficus lyrata, the fiddle leaf fig, has become one of the most photographed interior plants of the last decade, but its cultural history runs much deeper than Instagram. Native to the tropical lowlands of Western Africa, it grows in humid forest environments where light is filtered and inconsistent. Traditional West African communities used various parts of the Ficus genus, bark, latex, leaves, in preparations for wound healing and fever support, though any medicinal use should be guided by traditional knowledge keepers or medical professionals. Indoors, the fiddle leaf fig has a reputation as difficult, which is largely unfair. It's simply specific. It wants consistent indirect light, bright but never direct sun. It wants stable temperatures and no cold drafts. Move it once and it drops leaves. Leave it alone and it becomes one of the most architecturally beautiful trees you can grow indoors. Large, violin-shaped leaves on a slender trunk. It's genuinely extraordinary when healthy. The money tree, Pachira aquatica, is one of those plants whose origin story is impossible to separate from myth. The most common story traces to Taiwan in the 1980s, where a truck driver braided together 5 small Pachira plants and sold them as a single ornamental tree. He made enough money to change his circumstances entirely, and somewhere in that story, the plant picked up its name. But Pachira aquatica itself is ancient. It's native to Central and South American tropical wetlands, where indigenous communities traditionally used its large seeds as a food source, roasting them like chestnuts or grinding them into flour. The wood is lightweight enough to carve. The bark and leaves have been used in traditional preparations for various conditions. Indoors, the braided money tree is one of the easiest large plants to maintain. It tolerates low to medium indirect light, irregular watering, and a wide range of temperatures. It's genuinely hard to kill unless you overwater it. The ponytail palm, Bocarnia recurvata, is not actually a palm. It's a member of the asparagus family, which makes its common name one of the more misleading in the plant world. But it grows into a genuinely tree-like form, thick, swollen trunk, which stores water in drought conditions, and long, cascading leaves that flow downward like a ponytail. It's native to the semi-arid regions of eastern Mexico, where it can live for hundreds of years and grow into a substantial wild tree. In traditional Mexican ecological knowledge, it was recognized as a drought indicator and seasonal marker. Indoors, it's one of the most drought-tolerant trees available. Water it once every 2 to 3 weeks in summer, even less in winter. It tolerates low light, though it prefers bright indirect light and will grow mouse or quickly with it. As an indoor tree, it's practically an heirloom, slow-growing enough that a large specimen represents decades of patience. The Monstera deliciosa, the Swiss cheese plant, grows as a tree in its natural environment, climbing up and around actual rainforest trees using aerial roots that anchor into bark and crevices. In low-light conditions, its leaves grow larger, not smaller, an evolutionary adaptation to capture more light per unit of leaf. Ancient Aztec and Mayan cultures of Central America used the Monstera's aerial roots for basket weaving and binding. The ripe fruit, which tastes like a combination of banana, pineapple, and vanilla, was an important food source and gives the plant its species name, deliciosa. Indoors, monsteras are among the most adaptable of all large-leaved plants. They handle everything from dim hallways to bright rooms. They grow quickly once established. They root easily in water, and they have a visual boldness that makes even modest spaces feel lush and alive. In feng shui traditions, they're said to attract positive energy and represent growth and change. This brings us to the tree that medieval monks cultivated in near darkness, the one I mentioned at the start. The olive tree, Olea europaea, is not typically on any low-light indoor list, and that's exactly why it deserves a moment here. Monks in European monasteries, from the 8th century onward, grew olive trees in the cool, filtered light of monastery courtyards and cloistered gardens where direct sun was limited to a few hours a day. They weren't doing this accidentally. They understood, from generations of observation, that olive trees grown slowly, in lower light and cooler temperatures, produced oil of extraordinary quality. Modern olive cultivators in Tuscany still talk about this principle. Recent research from the University of Córdoba has explored polyphenol compounds in olive leaves, including oleuropein, for their potential in supporting cardiovascular health and healthy blood pressure levels. These studies are ongoing and should not be interpreted as medical endorsements. But the traditional association between olive trees and longevity in Mediterranean cultures is ancient and consistent. Indoors, dwarf olive cultivars, arbequina is the most popular, can be grown in large containers near your brightest window, requiring minimal direct sun and rewarding you with a tree that is, by almost any measure, one of humanity's most storied plants. They can even produce fruit indoors under the right conditions. Rounding out our 20, the jade plant, Crassula ovata, which, given enough time and the right conditions, grows into a bonsai-scale tree of remarkable character. Native to South Africa and Mozambique, it's been cultivated as an indoor plant in Asian and European traditions for centuries, almost always associated with prosperity and good fortune. In Chinese feng shui, it's called the money plant and traditionally placed near entrances to invite financial well-being. In South Africa, the Crassula genus has traditional uses in various communities for skin conditions and stress-related complaints, though again, consult professionals before any medicinal use. As an indoor tree, jade plants thrive in low to medium indirect light. They're succulents, which means they store water in their thick leaves and can go weeks without watering. Over years and decades, they develop woody trunks, gnarled branches, and a genuine tree-like architecture that makes them look ancient even when they're not. A large, well-tended jade plant is one of those indoor trees that stops guests mid-sentence. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. The idea that you need a greenhouse, a south-facing window, or an acre of land to live surrounded by trees is simply not true. It never was. People have been keeping trees indoors for millennia, in Victorian drawing rooms, medieval monasteries, ancient Chinese courtyards, and Aztec botanical gardens. The desire to live alongside trees is one of the oldest human instincts we have. There's actual research now suggesting that the presence of plants and trees in living spaces may support reduced cortisol levels, improved mood, and better cognitive function. We didn't need the research to believe it, we already felt it. But it's good to have science confirm what our great-grandmothers knew intuitively. A home with trees in it is a different kind of home. 20 trees, all of them genuinely capable of thriving in low light. Some will grow fast, some will grow slowly, some will become statement pieces in a week. Others will take a decade to reveal their full character. All of them are worth it. Start with one. The ZZ plant if you want total forgiveness, the fiddle leaf fig if you want a challenge with a reward, the Kentia palm if you want something that will outlast you. If this opened up the way you think about indoor spaces, share it with someone who has given up on plants because they think their apartment doesn't get enough light, because it very likely does. More than enough. Thanks for being here. Keep growing.